All right, hello and welcome. This is Dominic Daniels, and this is the first episode of the Masterful Lover Podcast series. This episode is essentially just going to be an introduction to me, an introduction to the community that I hope to create through this podcast, as well as just the content of the show and the outline that we're going to have for the next couple of months. So, the way that this whole journey started for me was basically when it was, I want to say maybe like 10 years ago, something like that, like 10, 11 years ago, that I met this girl, fell in love with her, so on and so forth, head over heels, you know what I mean? And we ended up breaking up because, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially she was telling me that I wasn't satisfying her, and and it's pretty damaging to the male ego when you hear something like that from the girl that you're like head over heels for. So it got me to kind of just look at everything that I was doing, and pushed me to kind of seek, I guess, knowledge for it or information for it to try to learn more about being, I guess in the context of this, a masterful lover, right? So I began this journey and I started reading these books, and they were telling you certain things about like different positions and techniques, and it helped a little bit, but it still wasn't the kind of breakthrough that I was looking for. And ultimately I came to the part in my journey where I decided to start interviewing the women that were closest to me in my life, like the female friends that I had, just to see, what they would tell me and if I could learn anything from picking their brains, so on and so forth. And I interviewed my first, my best friend at the time. And, I just told her about what had happened, and she agreed to help. Obviously, she was more than willing. And because I had read some of the stuff in the previous books that I had, I knew that it wasn't just about what happens in the physical world and the physical realm and like touching and techniques and stuff like that. And I knew that there was a lot more that was going on. So, specifically for females, it happens sometimes with men where you have like emotional and mental blocks, but it was mainly for females that they had these blocks. And I just wanted to figure out what it all was about and how to really get the kind of results that I wanted. You know what I mean? So we do the interview. She really liked the questions, and she liked the fact that I was trying to focus on the different aspects of the female sexuality and their mentality and stuff like that. And she was like, you know what, you got to interview my other friend. And so I ended up interviewing her other friend, and she referred me to her other friend, and then the other friend, and then the other friend. And before you know it, through all of these referrals, and in about 9 months, we got about 360 interviews, maybe over 367, something like that. This was maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I was like, wow, okay. No, so we got the 360 something, whatever interviews. And through the interviews, I noticed after a while that a certain pattern was showing up, that, yeah, all of these women are, different and they're unique in their own way. However, they do have certain similarities with what needs to happen for them. You know what I mean? And these similarities seem to be coming up more and more frequently, and so maybe it's something that needs to be focused on. And we'll talk about this obviously in a few minutes. I'll kind of outline it for you and everything like that. So So I kind of decided to test this little theory of mine in my own life, and I was looking for volunteer couples and people that might be willing to kind of apply the information in their lives and tell me what kind of results they got. We got 12 volunteer couples, and it worked like tremendously in my own life. But for these people, most of them, like, they increased their ratio, I guess you can say. So let's say out of 10 times that they would have sex, or they would get intimate, let's say, like 20% of the time or 30% of the time, the girl would be satisfied. But after they learned everything that they learned through what we shared with them, it went up to like 80%, 90%. And then there was this one couple that she had never had an orgasm before. She was like 47 years old. And through the use of the information, she had her first ever orgasm. And so I was like, okay, this is like cool. It works. And so they started referring more of their friends. And at the time, I was working full-time at a bank, and I didn't really have time to start consulting people. And so it got to the point where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to try to condense as much as the stuff that I learned about this pretty complex topic and put it into a book. And I wrote the book. It's called The Real Orgasm, and it's on Amazon. The link of it is going to be in the description of the video. And so, the book ended up kind of getting a life of its own, and it has been maybe 2 years or 3 years ever since that this book has been written, and it's helped a lot of people, okay? And so what I decided to do for the people that aren't into reading books was put like this show together, and we're just gonna turn it into bite-sized pieces as much as we can and kind of lay out this whole thing for you guys about everything that we learned. And then ever since I wrote that book and everything else that I've learned over the last 3 years, and all of the new information and all of the new amazing developments that have happened in human sexuality, it's pretty amazing. But so we just got into it, you know what I mean? And we're going to get into it, and it's just going to be really awesome, and I think you're really, really going to like it. So that's a little bit about me. Now, the community that I really would like to build is essentially people that are very open about this conversation. There's something in Los Angeles, and I think it's probably something that they do hopefully across the nation and maybe even across the world, where there's these communities where they're called sex positive Los Angeles or sex positive so on and so forth, where they talk about it openly and they're okay with it, and they're okay with embracing whatever is their thing, you know what I mean? Whatever their kink may be, they're okay with embracing it, and they're okay with sharing it. And they've developed these communities so that other people that might be shy or not so okay or not so established can come and kind of ease into it and feel more comfortable about it, and so on and so forth. So I would like to build something like that through this channel, and I would like to build something like that through this community where you guys can support each other and be, supportive, really. I guess that would be like the biggest word that I can think of, is just be supportive of each other, and, no bullying and no judgment, nothing like that, you know what I mean? And everybody, let your freak flag fly, as they say. And it's like, just be cool with who you are, you know what I mean? And that's that. I want to see if okay. And so the outline of the next few months and what I'm going to be sharing with you guys is going to be as follows, okay? The information that I learned but the information that I learned prior to writing The Real Orgasm was, I guess, the first part of my personal maturation of my, development in my sexuality, right? After that book, and after the new stuff that I learned and the new people that I met and the new lovers that I had a privilege of embracing and experimenting with, I learned a lot of new things. And so what's going to happen is, through the next, maybe I would say 5 to 10 episodes, we're going to share maybe 15. I don't exactly know how much it's going to go. And ideally, if you guys ask a lot of questions, I can answer your questions as we go along through this thing. But through the next 5 to 10, 15 episodes, we're going to talk about everything that I learned in the first book, like the really condensed version of that. And then after that, we're going to talk about everything that happened afterwards, which is the introduction. If I don't know, for a lot of people, I think you've heard of it for sure. But the world of BDSM or bondage, and it's nothing like what is read in 50 Shades of Grey and these ridiculous romantic novels. Or actually, you know what, I can't say that, because I'm sure there's some novels that are pretty much on point with really what happens in real life, but it's nothing like what happened in the 50 Shades of Grey series or whatever. So we'll talk about that, and if you would be interested in that, on what you should take and the action steps that you should take and how to go about it properly so that everybody's feelings and emotions are in consideration and nobody gets hurt and everything's all good and happy and satisfied and awesome. So that is going to be it. I don't know if I've rambled on too much or not, but I'm not trying to be I really haven't done a podcast, or I guess this is going to be kind of like a talk show. Hopefully I can make it like a talk show, and we'll try to get interviews and stuff like that. So that's about it. Yeah, that is about it. Okay, so subscribe to the channel. Definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel. Definitely make sure to leave a comment, like the video or the audio or wherever this is going to end up. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.